We're holding 846, bottom paragraph. He says, a person, the way he's created, he has a natural obligation. It's natural, and you're inclined to take care of your physicality. The question is, to what degree do you take care of your physicality? So, of course, you have an obligation to maintain your health. What about, but once you're going in that direction, sleep is pleasurable, comfort is pleasurable, relaxation is pleasurable. So to what degree? You may be actually compromising on something else for the sake of that, because you have all kinds of concerns, and not only that, it has the positive feeling or the pleasurable feeling, and therefore you may go beyond what's needed. So he says, when the light of intellect pierces, breaks through, he says, dawns upon, and it's revealed he says, the lowness which he's turned to as a result of its love for it, and he's been drawn to, he says, the fancies. Neglecting the source of its salvation in both abodes. Toshev mizeh v'toniach kol yoneh labori achonein. He says, it will then desist from this course and leave all its affairs to the Creator and Provider. Now, it's interesting. You have an obligation. So I always say, a person has an obligation to say Kriya Shema. You have an obligation to observe Shabbos. If it's not Pikuach Nefesh, person says, but how am I supposed to make ends meet? You mean, Hashem wants you to what? To observe Shabbos and to put yourself in danger? Evidently, it's going to work out. But I have greater interests in the material. Okay, it's irrelevant what your great interests are. The question is, what are you bound to? What is considered correct and what's considered incorrect? Well, but if I daven with a minyan every day, I'm not going to be able to be at the office at 7 in the morning. So evidently, you're not supposed to be in the office 7 in the morning. Meaning your livelihood will be provided, even if you're not there 7 in the morning. But now we're going back to, we spoke about emunah and bitochon. What do you believe and what level of faith do you have? So it's all tied in. If you come upon certain realizations, say, but how's it going to work? What do you mean, how's it going to work? I mean, who causes it to work? Many years ago, there was a certain person, a while back, and he once came from a wealthy family, and he visited Tush up in Montreal. And in the Tush community, most people are either teachers, no one really works. They're either learning, studying, teachers, or shochtim. But outside of what we call Klei Kodesh, they don't. So he says to the Tush Rebbe, so how do you make ends meet here? So Tush Rebbe said, we do what we do, and it works out. He says, but how do you make ends meet? And Tush Rebbe looks at him, he doesn't understand what he's talking about. He says, God works it out somehow. God provides. He says, but what do you do? And that was the end of the discussion. You know, if you believe that you're the creator of you're the maker of your own fate, okay, then you have a good question. But if you really understand, you have basic obligations. There's what we call base Judaism that you have to observe, and you're not supposed to compromise on it. So how are you going to work it out? The answer is, it'll work out. Hashem will work it out. But I have greater interest. Okay, that's your problem. So you're compromising. And that's what he's saying. When a person comes upon the light of his intellect, pierces this veil, he begins understanding the unacceptability of what he's veered to, and what he's drawn to the material. And he will leave all these issues to the Creator, who's the Chonein, who's the provider. And his mind will turn to seek out the ways of methods of saving, extricating itself from the foul trap in which it has fallen. And what he's been tested. And he will look at the physicality and desires in a negative way. He will open his eyes and he will have a clear vision from the cloud of foolishness. And it will be real to him the face of truth of his Creator and the one who actually guides the world. It's not simple. You know, you can talk to people. You know, as I say, what is excess? Spoke before preachers. What is excess? Excess means excess. Yes, do you have excess in your life? Person says, definitely. Could you get along without this? But certain things people cannot get along without. Why? Because it's called habit, conditioning. Because we've set certain minimal standards. We need that minimally. So anything above that is excess. You can get along without. But what you've set to be minimum may not be the minimum. There's a lot less than that you can get along with. One time people lived in a cold water flat. People subsisted on whatever it is. They had meat once a week. Well, we don't live in those times any longer, okay? But who says that the era or the time or the generation determines what you should or what you should not have? Well, I don't want to be different, okay? That you're an observant Jew, you're different. Right away you're different. You're different than most Jews. Most Jews are not observant. Once you take that route. David, I don't hear your input. What? Weddings. Why don't you start with the education? Forget about the weddings. Why? Brooklyn, $35 a couple. Work it out. $35 a couple. No white glove service. The waiter, I don't know if you shine the shoes. It's okay. Guaranteed not barefoot. Okay? I'm not sure if he speaks English, but it's okay. Yeah, but the question is what? But the question is what are you compromising on? What are your priorities? That's the question. Okay. But we've chosen a certain standard. Yeah, but we've set that standard. Okay? That's what he's talking about. Person that has a mortgage, he has a nice house, so he could have guests, but he can't pay his tuition. Which is the priority? Paying your son's tuition, or having the guests on Shabbos so you should host them in a beautiful home? What's the priority? Okay, so everybody has his priorities. V'chashetovin godel yichol of otzim geduloso. Tichrav sishtachvelo b'yiro v'fachad ve'im me'otzmoso geduloso. When a person understands his awesome ability, his great ability, and the awesomeness of his greatness, he will bow and prostrate himself with fear with reverence and fear, ve'imim otzmoso u'geduloso, from his essence and his greatness. V'lo sosim mizeh ad asher yaftichenu habori yisaleh, v'yashkit pachto moro. He will not leave the stage or be calmed. Was to shuka kos ava be'elokim, and then he will drink the cup of love of God. First, you have reverence and fear. V'tizbodi bodi yachid levavolo. He says he will withdraw. It will withdraw to be alone with God and devote his heart solely to him. Okay, we'll stop here. No, factually they weren't allowed. They weren't allowed. First of all, they may have had a chauffeur. Over there, it's from a musaf. Musaf with a minion. Either they were amaratzim, whatever they were. Chauffeur, they weren't yotze. They weren't yotze chauffeur. Wait, the Gemara says he gave him permission to stay in the fields? What does it say that? Doesn't say that. Doesn't say that. You show me the Gemara. Doesn't say that. No, doesn't say he gave him permission to stay in the fields.
Some stayed.
They stayed, but he didn't give permission to stay in the field.
They weren't supposed to.
And not here, chauffeur? Not possible. They didn't come. They didn't come. That's from Musaf. Musaf is rabbinical.